Welcome to the Fipple Farm Diaries, brought to you by the Yorkshire Dales National Park Authority. Fipple stands for Farming in Protected Landscapes, a programme funded by Defra that helps farmers and land managers in England's national parks and national landscapes access funding for projects supporting climate, nature, people and place. In each episode, we'll dig into a particular part of a project that's received Fipple funding. And while we focus on one theme at a time, every story is part of a much bigger picture, showing how these projects and people are working together to shape the future of farming in the Yorkshire Dales landscape. Join us as we meet the people making a difference and discover how farming in protected landscapes is delivering for the Dales, one story at a time. Good morning and welcome to the very first episode of the Fipple Farm Diaries. I'm Amy Hughes and I'm going to be hosting this series on behalf of the Yorkshire Dales National Park. So episode 1 is all about getting started with rotational and mob grazing. So the first farmer that we're going to speak to is James Newhouse from Long Preston.
James Newhouse, 41 years old, so married to Amy, 2 kids, Elkie and Ned. We live in Long Preston in the Yorkshire Dales. I'm a farmer. I've been a farmer now for 5.5 years. Previously to that, I worked at Rolls-Royce for 20 years in aerospace. Got through COVID and then decided it was a good opportunity to purchase some land off a local estate that was selling up. That local estate sold us 133 acres up on the tops of Long Preston, in between Long Preston and Settle, 1,000 foot up, rough pasture land, but great for the animals that we now have. We have some land in the village that my dad's purchased over the years and we rent. So altogether we're about 145, 150 acres. We run Belted Galloway cows, all purebred, and we have Swaledale and Herdwick sheep. Swaledale sheep, because my granddad farmed them. He was a farmer, he was a shepherd on Inglebury in the 40s. That's where my passion for farming comes from. And Herdwicks, because Amy went and bought some in a sale, and there's no sense or anything about it, but they're really good sheep actually and do really well on our land. That's why we've got Herdwicks. Elkie's 8 and Ned is 5, and that's our family.
Right, morning James, thank you very much for joining me and giving me your time. We're here to talk about your Fipple grant that you received and what you've done with it and why you applied for it. So do you just want to talk us through what the grant was for when you applied for it?
Yes, good morning. We applied for a Fipple bid a couple of years ago now, really because we'd done quite a lot of learning when we come into farming and we wanted to understand our land, and that was from a soil perspective, a grass perspective, what was living there, the status of land from a carbon perspective, really to understand the full benchmarking activity, because we currently set stock our land with our cows and sheep, and our learning from doing many different things was to move towards rotational grazing, and at that point in time maybe a little bit of mob grazing. So this Fipple bid was designed to help us move the infrastructure towards rotational grazing, but also give us our surveys and allow us to do a full baseline of our land, as well as some troughs and some other things to help us with that grazing strategy.
Okay, and so that all did that all come from being a relatively new entrant and you just wanted to know where you were starting from?
Yeah, I think being a new entrant farmer is great sometimes. It's not all times, but sometimes, because you can ask lots of questions. I was part of the Pasture for Life Northern programme, which is a Fipple funded programme as well. And through my mentee, I spoke to a couple of different mentors and they said to me, if you are going to change the way you farm your land, make sure you understand where you are today. Because a lot of people have gone to rotational grazing or mob grazing or done whatever and changed, but didn't know where they were from a starting position.
Yep.
So they don't know if the soil has got better, has got worse, if the carbon has got better. So a lot of learning from people like Jim Beery, who helped at the start of this Fipple bid, really got me to think about what I need to understand before we start making the changes. So that is really my learning to help us then learn to then move forward.
Yeah, okay. So it was more for you then, am I right in saying it was more about your soil health and your carbon storage than it was grass growth? Did that come into it, animal performance, that kind of thing?
I'll be totally honest, at first it was about, I went down the rabbit hole of soil health, of grass, and kind of missed the little bit of animal performance. We've now kind of learned and changed that. But right at the start, I got fixated on soil health, understanding dung beetles, understanding all about the nature side of it, which is brilliant, and we still do, but maybe it went down that route a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But through Pasture for Life, through the Yorkshire Dales National Park, through lots of people helping me, we've been able to go and see different farms, and they've taught me different things. Not everything is about growing really long grass. Not everything is about mob grazing. There's lots of things to think about, and it's very much specific to your farm.
Yeah.
So we go and see one farmer and he has grass up here and he leaves rest periods for 200 days. And then we see other farmers who are mob grazing, moving every day.
Yep.
And we're trying to take learning from all those different farmers, which Pasture for Life program has allowed me to do, and come up with our own strategy for our own farm and our own animals. So yeah, that's been very helpful for me, definitely.
Yeah. So what is your strategy then? Where have you got to from seeing all these different people doing different things? What do you think that's going to work on your farm in Long Preston?
So when we first started, our plan was to split up. So we have 4 30-acre fields, roughly, up on the tops. We're at 1,000 foot and it's rough grazing.
Yeah.
Our plan was to split those fields up into probably about 15, 16 fields through probably, we looked right originally at electric fencing.
Yeah.
And when we looked at electric fencing, we looked at then our animals and we looked at would that work? And I just think with the Belted Galloways, probably be all right, but the sheep with horns and wool with being natural insulators, it didn't seem like the right thing to do.
Yep.
So when we got our original Fipple bid, we had electric fencing, but ultimately after talking to some farmers, we gave that money back. We didn't do the electric fencing. We decided we'd take our time and put in hedges and fixed fencing. We have to be careful, and we made sure that we worked with the bird officer from the national park, because we are in a breeding waded bird area.
Right. Yep.
So we made sure that he came. We talked him through what we were going to do, and we were very sympathetic towards the birds and made sure that we didn't do anything that would harm our lapwings and everything else we have up there. So we've now gone to split our fields up, not as many fields, but do it with hedges, do it with fences, and we've put infield trees in certain areas as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has changed the way we're doing it. We're not doing it with electric fencing, but we are still doing it.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot longer.
Yes.
Because the funding is each year we do a little bit more. So we had Fipple at the start. We've had the Yorkshire Millennium Trust support us with some funding. We've just had some more hedge plants from the Woodland Trust from Pete. So that's great. And our next Fipple bid hopefully will allow us to finish that off and give us 12, 13 fields that we will be able to rotationally graze.
Yeah. And like you say, once you've got, it's going to take you longer, but once you've got all that in place, it's there then, isn't it? And it's
absolutely
part of the landscape.
Yeah, and I think I went on a course, part of the Pasture for Life Northern Fund. It gave you a little bit of money to go on a training course.
Right, yep.
So I went on the Grassroots to Resilience course. James Newhouse is with Caroline Grimrod. And we talked about splitting fields up, and we were at James's farm and he showed us what he's done, which is brilliant. And he talked about infield trees and about how you need to create a permaculture on your farm. So all the different things that link up hedges was wildlife corridors, infield trees for the animals to stand under, went for shade and things like that.
Yeah.
So for us, all that learning has allowed us to come up with all these new ideas, and we're slowly moving towards getting that in place. And I'm hoping by the end of next year, I think we should be there.
Yeah.
And then we can start properly rotationally grazing with probably a 30-day rest period.
Okay, yeah.
Originally, we wanted a bigger rest period, but that's what fits us for the amount of animals. And then I think we just recently, me and Alan Robinson went to see a farmer up in Northumberland, and they talked about, when you look at your land, don't just focus on sequestering carbon, don't just focus on soil health. You also need to think about animal health.
Yes.
And I think I'd gone down a path of not knowingly just focused on soil health and growing long. And they really opened my eyes, Angus and Duncan Ellis, really opened my, absolutely super. They really opened my eyes to think about animal performance as well. And how would you do that? Think about grass measuring. We have a plate meter, which came through our Fipple fund. So we're now into understanding grass, understanding lengths of grass, understanding what the animal needs and fitting that in alongside the rotational grazing. And I think that was the final piece of the puzzle for me now to come up with, this is our system.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do. We're going to do it for 5 years. We're then going to re-baseline everything again and see how it's changed, the soil health, the grass, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been so much knowledge I've stolen from all these people, and come up with our own way of doing it, basically.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? There's no one way to do anything, and you're absolutely right. You've got to take what you can from everybody. And I think Duncan and Angus Nellis, who you mentioned there, are one of the few farms that are absolutely farming with nature in everything that they do. The soil health's amazing, sequestering carbon, but the animal performance and the commercial side of the business is also flying because they've got that balance really well, and it's just proof that it's possible to do, isn't it? You just have to figure out how on your farm.
Yeah, and it's definitely about. So I spent a lot of time with Neil, a lot of time with Jim Beery, Sam and Claire Beaumont. Been up to James Banks's, talked to him about his system, and then been up to Duncan and Angus. And that group has set my knowledge base. And then I've taken a little bit from each one and come up with, this is Meg's farm system. And it might not work, and it probably won't work because we'll have to change it because that's farming. However, we now have a bit of a, yes, this is what we're going to do. And I think I feel for the first time probably in 5 years, yes, happy. This is what we're doing. This is how we're going to split it up. This is how we're going to measure it. We're right with the animals, and I think we're in a good place.
And with the soil types that you've got up on, because you said your land's up on the top, so I'm guessing you're fairly thin soil up there.
Some fields are better than others. And some of the fields we look at bale grazing. Alan keeps telling me about bale grazing and mob grazing, but I'm still resisting it a little bit. But no, I think for us, we have to do different things with different fields. So we talk about specific things for your farm. You then get to specific things for your fields and for your animals, which is a whole nother level of detail, which we're probably not there yet. But where we've got thin soil, we work differently, different times of year, different animals. Bale grazing is definitely something we're looking into.
It's about being adaptive, isn't it, in those fields? Because I think a lot of people do worry around here with some of this poorer land that is in the parks in terms of soil depth and quality. If you start a rotation, what happens if you have a really dry summer, it doesn't come back? But it is about being adaptive, isn't it? And you've got to change as you go.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, when I first started farming, very little knowledge, it was sheep, cows, put them in till the grass is grazed down to hardly anything, because that's what most people do, and then move them on to the next field. Whereas now, and Alan will laugh at this, we ideally put the cows in when the grass is the length of a beer can, put the sheep in when it's the length of a Coke can, and take them out when we're at 1,500. That's our standard that we're going to follow. But things will change and things will move. We have a plate measurer. We're going to have a go at that and see. So that blows my mind.
Wait till try use it on herbal lays. That's always fun.
I don't know if we'll be getting that.
Don't work on them. No, I think a lot of people have got this idea in their head about rotational or mob grazing, that it has to be electric fences, and you're proof that's absolutely not the case. And especially in the parks, we're almost set up to rotation. We've got all these walls, like the fields don't have to be the same size. It doesn't have to be that strict and that uniform, does it? It's just about, as you have very rightly done, knowing what you've got and how it works and how you stock fit into that, and what you can do with it.
Yeah, and I think for us, we're right up on the top, and wind and things, but putting hedges in creates like places where they can get behind when it's windy and wet. We do have some rush, which when I first started, I want to get rid of. But then when it's bad weather, the calves and the lambs are sat in the rush. So it all is, everything we're doing is not just for soil health, it's also for animal welfare. I still feel that to mob up our sort of animals just doesn't feel right with me. Our cows, so they like the space, they like to move around. When it comes to calving time, our cow will, because we self-wean, it will chase its last calf off the week before, then it'll go off to the other end of the field, have its calf, and it likes its space. Mobbing up, I don't know if I'm just there yet. I feel if we can give our animals a 6-acre field, 3 or 4 days, and then move them on, we'd have shorter rest periods, but we'd still get the moves. I think that's about right for us and where I want to be from my learning. Come back in a year and you might be different,
but that's the way it works, isn't it? You to trust your gut instinct and what you know about your cattle and your land. So what would you say to other farmers considering putting in a Fipple bid? How has it helped you?
The process is really good. The national park team, the support you get from the people is just tremendous. I don't think I've been involved with a process farming, or even in my old days at Rolls, where you get that sort of support, coming out, explaining, understanding. They come and talk to you, make you think about things. It obviously gives you some money to do some stuff, but it also, they help you and give you the ideas of maybe not this, what about this? So for other farmers, if you want to do something and it fits with the management plan and the objectives, then why not? Because it gives you an opportunity to do something, and it reduces that risk a bit because you're getting some support from the national park. We probably would have taken a huge amount of time longer because the cost to do it, whereas this support's allowed us to fast forward it a little bit. But through the Pasture for Life, the Northern programme, and then our bid, we've got so much support, all this learning, we've condensed it into about 3 or 4 years. So can't complain, it's great.
The second farmer that we're going to hear from in this episode is Stephen Crabtree. So Stephen owns some land up in Ayrton where the Fipple money was actually spent to put in hedgerows and electric fencing, solar panels and a big water bladder. Once we've spoken to Stephen and found out the why behind everything, we're going to go and speak to Michael Thwaite, who actually farms the land, and see how it's impacted him on a daily basis.
My name's Stephen Crabtree. I farm at Bolton Park Farm with my wife and hopefully soon to be my son in partnership. And we farm beef and sheep on a tenanted farm at Bolton Abbey. Today, we'll be referring to some land that we own near Malham, which we let out to a current tenant of Michael Thwaite, a young aspiring chap who is wanting to get on in life, and we thought it was a good way to try and help him.
Thank you very much for joining me. We're talking today about the work that you've done setting up some paddocks for rotational grazing. So do you just want to talk us through what you applied for in terms of your Fipple bid, and I suppose why?
Yeah, thanks, Amy. Yeah, good morning. We applied for a grant through the Farming in Protected Landscapes, which the National Park and other protected landscapes had access to from government funding. And basically it was to try and enhance the grazing that was there. It was a farm that we bought back in 2013, a 1,000-acre farm. And we took the decision to actually let the farm as opposed to farm it ourselves. And we currently, our tenant is a young chap called Michael Thwaite, who was a next door neighbour. His uncle farms next door, and he also rents some land off us. And there was basically 120 acres, because we'd taken 20 acres off for woodland at this point, split into 3 fields. And we thought we can do a better job. I've been a member of Pasture for Life for 12 months. And I was followed them on the web pages and things, on the emails. And I was quite encouraged probably with what we could do. And also we've been practicing it at home for the last 6, 7 or 8 years with temporary electric fencing as well. Basically, not the one-day paddock, just reducing the size of the field.
Yeah.
That is what we were after doing. So we applied for a Fipple grant, and in with the Fipple grant, we applied to do 1,500 metres of hedging and install 8 new water troughs, along with a solar ground-mounted solar pump, water pump, and that would pump up to what's called a bladder tank or a pillar tank, which was approximately 20,000 litres, I can't just remember, which was placed at the highest point, and from then the water would be distributed out to the 8 new water troughs. And the idea was that we split the fields into 2, and then we also got on the Fipple grant electric fencing, which could split the fields into a further 2 fields from the 1. So we could potentially end up with 8 paddocks. So that was the plan. And we've also got mains electric up there, so it was quite easy to couple the electric fence up to the mains. And a big bonus was that the actual solar panels, because they power batteries, they actually run that electric fence on that side of the farm now. So it's taken away from the mains back at the farm.
Yeah, so you killed 2 birds with 1 stone then with your solar power. So you mentioned hedges then. So did you use the hedges to split in the first instance, and then your electric fencing to split it further?
That's exactly correct, Amy. Yeah, the fences were basically to split the big fields into 2, and then the electric fence split the field into 4 at that point.
Yeah, okay. So you mentioned Michael's farming the land, so we'll hopefully speak to Michael a little bit as well. But from your point of view, what impact did that make on that bit of land?
Well, I could see the potential. It used to belong to my father-in-law, and using an old-fashioned word of courting, when I was courting my wife, he took me up there at a time or 2, and the land had basically, from what I remembered it at, which is probably 40 years ago, should I say, over 40 years ago, to where it was now, it had gone back. And I thought this land can be reinstated, brought back. And we want to try and do it in a natural way. We've applied lime and things like that, and phosphorus and potash. And so we've got all the readings are up, but what it needs now is just good managed grazing. And the way to do that, of course, is through paddock grazing or regen farming.
Yeah. And you said you split it into 8 in total, did you?
Yeah.
So what, in your head, what sort of stock numbers could that support?
All I can tell you is about what we do at home. And basically, the topography of the land at home does not lend itself to paddock grazing. But we've done the best we can. And I think it's fair to say we've probably done the best we can at Ormsgill as well. And some paddocks will probably take them. I can't give you stock numbers, but because every season varies.
Yep.
It actually grows different, can you believe, 20 miles away to what it does here. This last summer's been a classic example of what up in the area of Gargrave Malham, the grass has been in abundance, and we've been tight. So it's difficult for me to put the stocking on, but we were up there yesterday, and all I can say is that the land's looking better than it did.
Yeah.
And Michael, I'm hoping, will be doing nicely out of it as a tenant and a farmer.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, isn't it, with rotational grazing? You've got to be adaptive with it because, as you say, this last summer's been so dry for some parts around here, whereas others have had plenty of grass. And I suppose when you've got that flexibility with your electric fence, you can work it out as you go, can't you?
Yeah, that's right. If Michael wanted to live I'm not actually too certain that I don't think that Michael's actually split the fields with electric as yet, because he's just feeling his way in.
Yeah, sure.
And once he gets the feel of what's going on, and then he can understand probably better what we're trying to achieve or what he's trying to achieve, he'll probably start to use the electric then. I'm guessing.
Yeah. But I suppose it just goes to show, doesn't it, that rotational grazing can be used in any part of the country or the world, can't it? I think there's a bit of a myth that sometimes around here we can't rotationally graze because of the depth of the soil or the swaths or whatever. But actually, every little helps, doesn't it? A little bit of management does help.
Absolutely. I always set stocking used to be the way forward 25 years ago, but nowadays that's totally out of fashion. And the top and bottom of it is if you do paddock grazing, you actually make them eat the bad bits, which they would normally leave, and then the bad bits start to come back as better bits.
Yes.
And then it all becomes palatable grazing rather than some unpalatable grazing, which is what would happen with stocks. Set stocking.
Yeah. So did you do any soil sampling or anything on that farm before you
we started to soil sample shortly after we bought it, and we realized there was a shortage of lime. pH was low, and also phosphorus, and we spent quite a lot of money. I think there was over 1,000 ton of lime went up there, and we used some byproducts as well for the phosphorus to raise that and spread that.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that changes with time with the
I'm on the eye. I'm pretty certain that the land's far more fertile than it was 12 years ago. And if the clover content's to go with anything, which is always a fairly good measure from an old man's point of view, it's there's certainly clover to where there was no clover before.
Right. Michael, as the person that farms the land that Stephen Crabtree has been speaking about, just tell us what impact it's made for you in terms of how you manage it, grass growth, that kind of thing.
It's made it a lot easier for me because I don't have the numbers myself at the moment, which I'm just growing up gently away. So I can fasten them in them smaller fields, let them eat it up, move it on after a week. I'll have been moved wrong every 7 days with the sheep, followed by the cows into the field to finish eating it off. So we keep going around grazing it. Meanwhile, the sheep are always getting something new, some good grass constantly, so that's better for them. The cattle are doing well, cleaning off the fields after. Yeah. So it's working well for me.
How long is it roughly before? I suppose it'll change every year, but I imagine we've just been round on the quad and nearly got blown away. It's an exposed farm, isn't it? Like this last summer, with it being so hot, did you ever worry about it not coming back, as it were?
To be honest, it's like you say, it's a very wet farm. So this year it suited us. But yeah, there was times where I'm thinking, because I do them in like blocks of 4, so there'll be 4 fields.
Yeah.
So like every 4th week it's coming back to itself. Yeah. There were some weeks where it wouldn't have grown back just as much through that hot spell, but it was, if I had to do that, I'd just move them on a few days sooner, just judge it how it was going.
Yeah, that's what it's about, isn't it? Judging it. I was saying to Stephen, I think a lot of what puts some farmers off rotational grazing is there's almost a myth that it's got to be black and white, and you've got to do it this way and this way and this way. But it is about judging it and giving yourself that bit of flexibility.
Yeah, well, I get what you're saying. I asked a few people myself, and they just says, do what you think, basically. And that's all I did. Yeah. There were some fields I thought, they're getting eaten up quicker, I'll move them on. But then the next one might be a bit of a bigger field, and it could last a few days longer. So it's swings and roundabouts.
Yeah. Yeah. But it just gives you, I suppose, having it split up into, at least with the hedges at the minute, because you've not used the electric fencing as yet, have you? Because you haven't got the stock numbers. But I imagine having them hedges, and that just gives you a bit more option.
Yeah, it does. And it's all got electric fence round it, so we can just hook it onto fences and go straight across fields to make our fields smaller if we need to. Yeah. There's plenty of water troughs in fields now. as you've just seen. So it works well.